Mando really works too, John. I don't know that I told you this, but I got a text over the weekend from Mrs. Layfield thanking me for Mando. So I guess you guys maybe went 2 out of 3 falls, and she said you smelled better than ever. So that's good news.
That is good news. Yes. It's good news to be able to have that and have the success at home.
Everybody, I don't know what makes them want to do the things they want to do, but I know what makes them not want to. So eliminate the stink with Mando.
That's right.
Hey, let's talk a little bit about Drew McIntyre. He's a guy that you and I think a lot of, one of my absolute favorite performers in WWE. But he's recently called out talent who listen to Twitter, telling them how good they are and not being on shows often enough. And instead of asking veterans for advice, they're looking to Twitter. He says, I give away advice for free in these interviews because all the new guys listen to Twitter and it tells them how good they are. And they're like, I must be good. Twitter's telling me I'm good, even though I'm not really on the show often. You got all these vets here to ask, and they don't ask any advice. They just don't bloody listen, do they? I love that all of a sudden Drew McIntyre, who none of us perceive as like an old timer, he sounded like one that, hey, no one's asking for advice. And you even saw The Undertaker. He started to talk about TikTok. He says, for me, I'm a notoriously old school guy. It's disheartening sometimes when I go to the shows, and you can even find talent backstage watching matches. Like, most of them are filming TikToks and doing other stuff. Even when I was on the road full time, if you weren't sitting there watching the monitor, it was going to be a bad day for you. So what do you make of these two giants in the professional wrestling business, a legend like The Undertaker and one of the top stars of the day, Drew McIntyre? What's going on with this this crop of newcomers to the WWE landscape, who maybe are getting all of their feedback and notes from fans on Twitter? I don't know. That feels weird to me. What do you think about A, that dynamic, and B, them calling it out?
I love them calling it out. And the dynamic is terrible. I was, there for a while as an agent, I think 2 months or 2 days or whatever it was. And I remember talking to somebody, but I dealt a lot with agents because I would deal, I was there for the creative meeting that would, precede the show, not the creative meeting that happened on Thursday and Friday, but the creative meeting that preceded the show because I was doing commentary. And I would hear them talking to the guys, out there in the arena, because I would go around getting notes for guys when I'm doing commentary. And I've heard agents tell wrestlers that didn't work. And literally, so my Twitter loved it. I've heard people say that. This was years ago. I'm like, what are you talking about? You've got a live feed right here, right around you in the crowd, 360 degrees. You got live feed right here around you that tells you if it's working or not. And you're telling me you're 50 people or 25 people who respond on Twitter, that's what you want to go by? And you don't know who these people are. You don't know if they're real names. You don't know if they're children. They could be 8-year-old children saying, hey, man, you're a great wrestler. And you're going to take that over the word of Arn Anderson, who's your agent? I mean, it's just crazy to me. I think the problem with it, Conrad, is because this phone is so personal that you pick it up and it seems like it's got to be right because it's on your phone. And I think that's why people give so much credit to it. But I think it's absolutely insane, and I think it really is hurting because, I've told you this many times, Conrad, how people would talk about how Twitter was blowing up, and I'd say, let's define blowing up. And by the time you count what is happening on Twitter, it's 40, 45 comments. You're going, yeah, it's all over my timeline. Yeah, but the North American audience is what, several million? And you're basing this off of 40-something comments off Twitter, and you don't know legitimately if this is an 8-year-old kid in Australia that's talking, or if it's a business owner somewhere. You have no idea who it is.
It's going to be interesting to see the evolution of the industry, because with WWE Unreal happening and there being all those cameras backstage, I don't know, man. We start to get, it feels like that movie Inception. It's the story within the story within the story, and I don't know.
The one difference, Conrad, is these guys are building a brand, and I understand that, and I completely agree with that. I have no problem with that whatsoever. But I see people all the time, and it drives me nuts. I think it's a phobia. I think it's detrimental to mental health. I'm not the old guy that's cursing at the clouds, but you go to a restaurant, and you see a couple sitting there, like a young couple, an old couple, whatever else, where they are, and they're both sitting there on their phones just looking at them.
Yeah.
I'm like, all day long, You've sat here and you have looked at your phone all day long. And now all of a sudden, the one time you're with somebody that you love, you can't stop looking at your phone. And the parallel I make is to wrestling. You sit there, you're on your phone all day. You're traveling on a plane, you got Wi-Fi, so you're checking your phone, you're on it all the time. And then you come to the show, and instead of watching matches, you're checking your phone, you're checking your TikTok, you're checking your Twitter. I understand if what you're doing is building a brand. I understand that. We didn't have that. I mean, but could you imagine Roddy Piper on Twitter? talk about fun, Jesus. But these guys have got to realize what's important. I think it just becomes a phobia with this instant feedback of, oh man, is somebody telling me I'm good? And did somebody just like my video? I'm sorry, but that's not the be all end all. Most of the time, it's a result of what you're doing in that ring. And I think people are neglecting that because of what's on their phone. And I understand completely what Taker and Drew are talking about.
Well, we're going to stay tuned and see how these, because I always wonder when I hear this, hey, are they angling for something on TV? Is this going to be a part of LFG? Is this going to be a part of Unreal? I mean,
they could be. Come across anytime you say something to young people, they just think you're the old guy that's bitter or whatever else. You know, I've had people come to me all the time to talk to me about their matches. I'll even stop them sometimes and say, listen, do you want me to tell you how great you are? Is that why you came to me? Because if you did, I'll tell you you're the best thing I've ever seen in my life. I'll tell you whatever you want to hear. But if you really want to critique, I will tell you what I thought about your match. I'll tell you if you're good. I'll tell you in my opinion. I'll tell you if you were bad, in my opinion. I'll tell you what you could have done better, in my opinion. But some of these guys just want validation. I watch them come back through Gorilla. We used to never have that. It's crazy. These young guys and girls will come back through Gorilla. They go to Triple H because they do want feedback. I get that part of it. But what they want is validation. They just want to come through and people go, oh, good match, good match. So they will literally go to every single person and try to make sure that people say something good about them. I've sat there in Gorilla. Half the people aren't watching the matches, and they will sit there and tell them how great they were, and they go, oh, thanks, and they'll walk off. I'm like, you didn't even watch the match. It's nuts. You know, I was fortunate. Buddy Landell told me the first time when I was in Japan, he pulled me aside and he said, do you know when you have a good match, kid? And I said, I think so. And he goes, then why do you go to everybody in the dressing room and look like a complete mark? So, look, this is nothing new. That was 30-something years ago. And he tells you, why do you look like a complete mark going to everybody begging for somebody to say something nice about you? And I just looked at him, and he says, find you one or two people you trust, pull them aside, don't let anybody see you, and ask them what they thought of your match, and they will tell you. But a lot of these young guys today, same thing that I did when I got into business, they just want validation, and that's what this silly little phone is.
Well, let me ask you about that. And I realize this is a bygone era now, but I've heard from, well, I'll just say it. I talked to Paul Heyman once, and he said, hey, we play to an audience of one, Conrad.
Correct.
And I was like, okay. And so when I really understood that, I mean, I even saw earlier this year Swerve Strickland doing an interview with DJ Vlad over on YouTube. And he said something like, hey, I want to make sure that Tony Khan got what he wanted. So, hey, Tony, what do you want me to do? He tells me what he wants me to do, and I go do it to the best of my abilities. When I come through the curtain, I want to make sure, are you happy with that? What can I do better? Like, I think that's just being a good, for lack of a better word, employee. And I know I'm not trying to get down the rabbit hole on independent contractors. I'm just saying, I do think that, hey, is that what you were looking for? How can I improve? I think that's real. Is that okay to go to Vince in those days and say, hey, is that good? What can I do better? Or do you think that even is crossing the line? And
you didn't do that with Vince. Yeah, you didn't do that with Vince. Vince didn't want you coming to him. If Vince wanted to talk to you, he would talk to you. Okay. And if he had something to say, he would say to you. If it was fine, he wouldn't say anything. If it was bad, he would say something. And if it was really good, he would say something. So if you walked through there and he didn't call for you, it was fine. But you know it wasn't anything outstanding. But you know it wasn't anything terrible. And that's how you could pretty much read Vince. Vince didn't want people coming up to him all the time. And he was incredibly busy. You know, Vince did so much at Gorilla Position. It was impossible what all he did. He would help run cameras. He would be rewriting the shows. He would be editing stuff. He would be helping with matches. I mean, what Vince did at Gorilla, he was busy the entire time. So Vince did not want people coming up to him after every match and asking how they were.
So if you
were, I changed things. I've changed things several times, and sometimes they worked. And when they did, Vince had no issue with it. He's very happy with it. That's why he wanted me to try. And when it didn't work, I would go to him, always go to him and say, Vince, I did that on my own and shit didn't work and I apologize. And he would always have something to say. He never got mad at me for that. He never got mad at me for trying. Sometimes he'd say, well, this is why I wrote it this other way. He'd explain it to me to learn. And sometimes he'd just say, thanks. We'll get them next time.
SaveWithConrad.com.
My name's Rajiv. I'm in Sacramento, California. I came to Save with Conrad because I've heard Conrad talk about how he helps people all the time save money and the best route to go for getting some mortgages and finances done. And having heard so many different testimonials in the past, it made the most sense to go this route. We were in the market for a new house and we wanted to know what we could afford. So we spoke with Steve and then Diane to get through the pre-approval process to see what we could afford. And then once we were able to understand that aspect of it, that was when we were able to shop around for a house to get a mortgage through Save with Conrad. Everybody on the team was great. Everybody really explained everything fully to where it was more in like layman's terms to where I could understand it as someone not in the business or having shopped around for houses too many times. So being able to understand every step of the process and talking with everyone on the team about that was really, really helpful. And it made me feel really confident that I was going the right route. I would definitely recommend Save with Conrad to others. I know that sometimes people look at it and they go, oh, they're based in Alabama. What could they help me with? But I'm out here in California and they were able to square everything away and get things done really quickly, as opposed to sometimes even people out here don't move as quickly as the Save with Conrad team. So everything was really well done, really efficient, and I would definitely recommend Save with Conrad to others. My name is Rajiv. I'm in Sacramento, California, and I was able to get into my dream home with SaveWithConrad.com.
That's number 2129, Equal Housing Lender. SaveWithConrad.com.